Now, going into this fight, these two gentlemen had some real, true dislike for each other. This had some bad blood that had been brewing for a while, and we saw it building up in the lead up to this fight, culminating in that weigh-in where you got Caleb Plant putting his hand in David Benavidez's face. Like, it was easy to think coming out into this one there was going to be fireworks, that both of these guys were just going to be, emotions were going to be running high. They couldn't wait to get their hands on each other, and they were going to go out there and just get loose right from the start. And that couldn't be more the opposite of what we saw. Man, this fight started out, and the guy that we expected to be the aggressor, the guy that we expected to be pushing the action, David Benavidez, did anything but that. He was hesitant. He seemed out of rhythm. He wasn't throwing many punches at all. Caleb Plant was doing kind of what we expect him to do. He's out there. He's got this huge ring. He's using his footwork. He's landing little pot shots here and there. The crowd booed at one point. The announcers were questioning what's going on. They said if David Benavidez expects to win this fight, expects to even get into this fight, the very first thing he's going to have to do is start throwing more punches. The jab for David Benavidez was basically non-existent. It was, the footwork, the movement, what Caleb Plant was able to do, David Benavidez was missing with some big shots, significant misses, catching a lot of air. So early on, what we expected Caleb Plant to do, he was able to do at a very high level. He was able to be very successful through those first 6 rounds and doing what he wanted to do, which was using his footwork, utilizing angles, staying out of exchanges, staying out of the danger zone, keeping David Benavidez from being able to get his offense ramped up and going and all. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't mention this one point. A big part of the way that he was able to accomplish that wasn't just the footwork, wasn't just the movement, wasn't just his ability to work the jab. It was also the fact that he was doing an incredible amount of holding. He was initiating every single clinch that you could see. One of the things that the announcer team was astounded by, myself included, was the fact that through all of this clinching, through the egregious initiation of the holding, he was never warned once. There was not one time when Kenny Bayless went over and said, hey, stop holding. Hey, this is a hard warning. You're doing too much clinching. Hey, stop reaching. It was a lot of it. Nevertheless, second half of this fight, we're going in. It was easy to look at the card. Steve Farhood had Caleb Plant up 4 rounds to 2 heading into the 7th round. But the second half of this fight was completely different. It was a tale of 2 fights, man. David Benavidez cranked up the pressure, cranked up the action, and did exactly what we expect him to do. He started throwing a lot of punches, started working behind the jab, started landing hard, punishing shots. By the time this was going into the 10th, 11th, 12th round, we got Caleb Plant's corner threatening to stop the fight. Caleb Plant's trainers looking at him in the corner saying, hey, if you don't show me something, I'm going to pull this one. If you don't show me something, I'm going to stop this fight. Going into the 12th, he's asking him, do you want to finish this? Do you want to see this all the way through? I know that means a lot to you. He was out there taking a beating. David Benavidez was just able to go out there and get the work done. Once he was able to close that distance, once he was able to nullify that footwork, once he was able to get by that jab of Plant, dude, it was all downhill for Caleb Plant. Benavidez was able to go in there and land more shots. There was points in this fight where there were large periods of time where Caleb Plant wasn't throwing many punches at all because he felt that pressure. He felt it adding up. David Benavidez is just rattling off those left hooks. He was able to get that right uppercut going at times. It was a great performance. It was a great performance considering he was fighting a man out there who was at the top of the division, who had fought Canelo, who had a style that was going to be difficult for him, who gave him trouble early on in the fight. But like a champion does, he figured it out. He persevered. He stayed on his game plan, and he was able to make it happen. Even in the face of the holding, even in the face of the low blows, even in the face of everything that was going on, David Benavidez was able to go out there and figure it out. And that's what you want to see from a young guy. That's what you want to see from a guy who is moving up. That's what you want to see from a guy who you expect incredibly great things from in the future, which is what everybody expects from David Benavidez. He said this was going to be the biggest fight, said he was going to be the most talented guy. He went out there and he didn't just dominate, right? If you go out there and you see a guy dominate, it's like, man, that's awesome. That's great. Can't say enough good things about him. But what we saw was a little bit different. What we saw was a guy who went out there and actually overcame adversity, had some difficulty, saw it through, then dominated and won the fight. Man, and that's something special. So I was incredibly impressed by this one. I really liked the performance he put on and the build up to everything. He was able to finally go in there. He was able to keep his emotions in check. He was able to put in a good performance. And at the end of the day, he shook Caleb Plant's hand. And man, I can't wait to see what's next. You got to understand, whoever he fights next, there is no way that they're going to be using as much footwork, using as much angles, running around nearly as much as Caleb Plant. So if that's what was giving David Benavidez the trouble early in this fight, it's not going to be any trouble he's seen in his next fight. So it'll be interesting to see. Let me know what you guys think. Were you as impressed with his performance in this fight as I was? And who do you want to see him fight next?